So imagine you are in New York City. It's summer, the sun is out. You're walking out your favorite neighborhood together with your partner. And you just spot that amazing building where you would like to spend, your entire life. You decide to buy it. So you invest 10 times your combined annual income to really get hold of that property. And you know what? Make it the perfect place. You need to do a little renovation work. You file your application, and a few months later, you are stuck. Something happened down the line. You are there, you are hungry, you start to walk around, you ask people, you ask your neighbors, what happened with my application? And you realize that for the last few years, every single application filed in that block got stuck. Wouldn't you have liked to have a solution, something in place, to know in advance that you might have had a problem? So this is the challenge that we try to solve with our team. We received a data set of information from the New York Open Data, and we tried to understand where insights we could gather from existing data of stalled projects, and as well as create a model to predict future ones. To give a little bit of context, we wanted to get more insights about the challenge, and we found out there were over 1 million buildings regulated in New York, and people were able to file compliance under more than 100 categories. Our data set, unfortunately, was very limited. We have only information about the stalled ones. There are 9 categories out of the 103 ones. Not only, for the stalled project, we only had, I think, 5 or 6 attributes. So it was a very limited amount of information that we had at our disposal to find something meaningful out of it. If we move into the approach, so it really took us a long time, especially because we had mainly PMO and project manager people in our team to understand which was the challenge and what we could do with this data. We decided to get additional data to really get some correlation, something meaningful out of it. And out of all the tools that we knew, I think Power BI was the only one that could really help us together with Excel to find some correlations. In terms of challenges, Russell will tell you more about the challenges and what we did about them. But we had 2 data sets that were very difficult to correlate together. We tried to clean them and to reach the information. Now, the cool part is not my talking, so I will pass it to Russell for them.
Thank you. Okay, so we had 2 separate data sets from New York City. One was a short set of all the historical projects over a 2-decade period of time that had stalled. There was about 2,000 or so lines of data in this and a small number of distinct properties. Then we had a more recent set of all of the active projects that have been going on since 2017 to current day, which was 910,000 lines. So we had 2 distinct types of data. The stalled data had the address of the building, the community board where the complaint was raised that led to the stall, and that was pretty much it. Everything else was in the other set of the data. So we had some difficulty in trying to tie these things together. We had to rationalize the address data in the stalled set because it was very untidy. For example, Fifth Avenue was put in 5TH, it was put in 5, it was put 0, 5 was put in FIRST. So trying to rationalize it down to a single address was very challenging. What we did do is get it all in and manage to tie them together. So the map you see on the left here is the stalled projects historically over the period of time from 2009 up to 2019. The chart we see at the top is a count of all of the stalls that were produced from a complaint. The colour is the link to the borough of New York that we are in particularly. If we click on these, this will actually filter the rest of the charts so that we can see. And again, on the left here, these are the ones that were stalled in the Q1 2009. On the right, what we've done is filter, so it's showing everything that's still within the borough that's currently going on live. This chart in the middle is actually showing the top 5 street names that received complaints of the set that we've got there. On the left here, we also are showing the top 5 community boards that received the complaints. So you can see it was all Queens, but this 414 got 12, the vast majority of all of the others. And then we're also showing the top 5 streets by the complaints on the left there also. To the right, we took a count of the current projects, just a physical count. We took an average value of the total applicable fund divided by the count of the projects plus the total applicable fund. The 2 line graphs on the right, we decided to go kind of out of the box and try and find something that might have elicited an effect on these values. So we looked at the population over some decades. You can see in this particular borough, Queens, that there was quite an increase in population to 2000, and it was pretty steady. If I take the filters off, you can see the overall data that comes through there was actually pretty disappointing. There was no real spikes or anything, so we decided we couldn't really infer any connection between population and the rest of the data. We also showed the actual project value, so the investment to property in the 2 years, as you can see, which is all of the data that we had for the current projects, and with the exception of Brooklyn that had quite an increase between the first 2 years, everything was pretty static also. One distinct thing that we did notice was a peak of complaint counts in this middle year period. This is 2012 to 2013. If you remember, that's roughly around the time that Hurricane Irene hit New York, so a lot of storms came and there was a lot of damage. There was flood damage to basements and things in many areas, so we can assume that this was related. We haven't had the chance to go out and get the empirical data to connect that, but it stands to reason that that's what would happen. If you take that out of the equation, you can see from back in 2009 there's quite a high count, and to current it goes down to 1 count per year, and we actually have some months and quarters where there's 0 counts whatsoever. So far as we've got, we can really only surmise that the number of counts are coming down. So from the data we've had in the data sets, very difficult for us to say that there will be stalls at all, because the trend has been far fewer complaints, therefore far fewer stalls. Thank you.
Hold on. Oh yeah, I mean, we also started to think how to go next. And in terms of applicability, so we think that such a model, especially will start to have some predictable aspects of something that will help us do. So in the future would might be extremely helpful for builders as well as people living in the world. Something that can also support is new construction projects. I understand if there is a risk factor in some contingency in the budget. In terms of future analysis, we would like to see a correlation with the administration cycles, as new regulation might come in place that might stop some of the constructions, as well as major political events. We didn't find any data set for this, but I think this might be something useful for future hackathons, if we can provide more data sets available for a similar project to take it further. And once more information will be added to the model, maybe the correlations will become clear, and then it will be possible to train the model with some of the more advanced machine learning and AI applications. That's everything for now. Thank you.
Well done, guys, and sorry about giving you such a difficult data set for the challenge. What do you see in terms of being the commercial benefits? Just to spitballing some commercial benefits. There is the delay in applications that people have, but more buildings on time and that sort of thing. What kind of benefits can you see of getting this right?
Do you want to take it? Sure. So I think of all of the trends that we can show, if I go back to the dashboard to demonstrate. So spatially we can do it, geolocation wise. If we filter by a particular borough, you can see on this section here, so there's certain areas where there's a higher frequency of complaints, so we could put those straight across to the same kind of geospatial location on the other side and say, look, whilst we can't say exactly what's going to happen here, historically there's been a higher frequency here, the delay has been X, so you should expect some kind of contingency for your plans, which will be X, and then appropriate some kind of a cost towards that.
Thank you.